Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Geoffrey Gibson Book Club. On today's show we will be discussing the first of the Lord of the Rings books by J.R.R. Tolkien, The Fellowship of the Ring. And with no further ado, let's begin. Over 60 years ago in 1954, J.R.R. Tolkien unveiled the first installment of his series Lord of the Rings with the publication of The Fellowship of the Ring. And unknown to him at the time of publication, this series would stand to leave a lasting legacy, one that would go on to bring together communities, decades after his death, and one that revolutionizes the fantasy genre forever. However, in light of the fact that the novel was published literal generations ago, I would like to try my best to analyze whether or not it stacks up today with modern-day fantasy novels. This story takes place in a place called Middle-earth, an ancient land in which several human-like species including the likes of dwarves, elves, and hobbits coincide. The story features a character introduced in a previous Middle-earth novel from Tolkien, Bilbo Baggins, who plays the same role, after 60 years following his last appearance. In celebration of the 111th birthday of Bilbo, a relative of the family, Frodo Baggins, is given an all-powerful ring, and the ring is said to have been forged by Sauron the Dark Lord and infused with magical powers. As Frodo soon finds out from Gandalf the Grey, who is another wizard, the ring enables Sauron to enslave and dominate all of humanity, which for obvious reasons, poses a massive threat to Bilbo and his entire species. Determined, he sets off on an adventure to destroy the ring, accompanied by some of his hobbit friends. The trip intensifies as time goes on, and as Bilbo explores the vast lands of Middle-earth, he meets a number of new traveling companions. Together, they conquest further and meet new challenges to approach. I read the first book of this series quite some time ago, and even as a 7th grader, was able to read and comprehend most parts of the book. Though with that being said, I would not recommend this novel for someone who is similarly aged. It's always worth remembering that the book is 60 years old, so the language is bound to be slightly more difficult to read. There's also the fact that Tolkien presents readers with an enormous amount of lore, and it can be a challenge to understand all the details that are included in the book. When reading through this book, I found myself completely immersed in the story being told. Tolkien does a marvelous job with engaging readers in his story. The world he has created is described in such animated detail, that nearly anyone can get hooked on his story. If you decide to skip this book, but are still interested in reading a similar fantasy novel, I would give George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire book trilogy a try. While it's true that the novels in this series bear many similarities to Lord of the Rings, Martin's books usually move at faster paces, with a greater number of surprises and unexpected endings. In spite of the fact that the book may at times be difficult to get through, Tolkien illuminates his stories with rich language, backstory, and imagery. And for these reasons and more, the novel is certainly worth a try. So that brings to an end another episode of the Book Club. I hope you have enjoyed it. I will be back next week where I will be discussing the book Great Expectations. But until then, thank you so much for watching, stay safe and happy reading.